If I can, for this first question, can you take off your governor's hat for me just a little bit? And I'd like to get your gut reaction when you heard over the weekend that someone was shot to death at a protest in Portland.
I was horrified. My heart goes out to the family. This is really devastating to, frankly, the entire country.
I wanted to give you a chance to kind of respond to some of the calls that we've been getting, some criticisms about your statement that came out after the shooting, in which you condemned Patriot Prayer and also armed militias. As far as our reporting is concerned, the victim was actually, we believe, a member of Patriot Prayer. And, some of the calls that we've gotten feel as though you kind of painted that caravan with a broad brush. We've been careful, not to call all protesters as being violent. Do you have any problem with the families that may have been involved in that caravan who simply wanted to show their support for law enforcement?
Look, I think it's really important that Oregonians be able to exercise their right to free speech, whether it's supporting our law enforcement or issuing a clarion call to ending racism. I ask that everyone do so and do it peacefully.
But you don't have a problem with people who, of course, want to show their support for a separate protest for law enforcement?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think the challenge that we are facing in this country is that our President Trump, is sowing the seeds of hatred and division. And we are seeing these seeds bear fruit in communities around the entire country. Communities like Charlottesville, Kenosha, and unfortunately in Portland. It has to end.
You came up with a plan on Sunday night, what you would like to see happen to deal with some of the violence we've been seeing in downtown Portland. It asked for some of the cooperation of the surrounding counties as well as Gresham. Did you lay the groundwork with these counties? Because frankly, we talked to some of leaders in those counties, and the first they heard about this plan was over the weekend when you announced it. Do you think you'll get buy-in, and what'd you do in preparation for this?
We had been working on this plan for a handful of days. I certainly have reached out to local elected officials, but this is a comprehensive, unified law enforcement approach. We are asking for local jurisdictions to assist the city of Portland. This is routine mutual aid agreements that have happened over the years, possibly decades in this region. And we think that it's really important at this point in time for the region to come together to help end the violence on the streets of Portland.
And Governor, you think that the counties will cooperate?
I certainly hope so. I am confident that the city of Portland will do everything they can to ensure that there is a welcome hand.
Let's talk about the National Guard, if we could, for just a second. Mayor Wheeler, in his address to the city of Portland over the weekend, mentioned that he had reached out to you to ask for help from the National Guard twice. I'd like you to respond to that if you can, and why maybe you feel that the National Guard isn't the answer to this situation.
Well, first of all, Mayor Wheeler made those requests months ago, so it's not particularly pertinent to the recent events. But secondly, I would say this: our National Guard are volunteers, men and women across the state, coming together to protect our country and protect our state. We are using the National Guard for critically important duties. For example, right now, they have assisted the employment department in making phone calls to Oregonians so Oregonians know where their cases are. They have helped deliver protective equipment to communities around the state. And unfortunately, if fire season gets much worse, we're going to need their assistance in supporting firefighting efforts. So that's really important work. They have the training. What we need in terms of the city of Portland is trained law enforcement.
Portland and Oregon, as you know, are kind of making headlines across the country as, being a flashpoint of these protests, of these riots that have been declared on a nightly basis the last few. What seriously could President Trump do, in your opinion, that you would feel would help the situation? What tangible things could the president do to help?
That's a really good question, because I've been calling on the White House for months now. First of all, we need a national response to the global pandemic. We need additional personal protective equipment, and we need frankly, a sped up approach to testing for COVID-19 so we can open our schools and ensure that our workers around the state are safe. And of course, making sure that our nursing homes are safe. In addition to that, it would be critically important for every single state, regardless if they're Republican or Democratic state, to have an additional federal funding package. All of the states have been devastated economically. And I will tell you, the governors, we can't agree on what color the sky is, but we can all agree that we need additional federal financial assistance, and we need it now.
Nothing in regards to the protests, though, that you feel the president could do to help?
We're working closely right now with local federal officials and feel good about the collaborative effort happening on the ground.
One of the other things that you want in your plan is to engage the community leaders. Do you have any concrete plans yet on who would be involved, where it would happen, and when it would happen?
Look, I think the unfortunate part of the destruction, the property destruction and the arson happening on the streets of Portland is that it's a distraction from the critically important work we need to do to reimagine, re-envision, recreate our law enforcement system. What does community policing look like? What does public safety really look like in our Black, in our African American, in our Latinx, in our Indigenous communities? This is critically important work that we need to do collectively. That's where I want to focus the conversation moving forward.
Governor, there is just so much division, not only in our country, but in our city, in our state. How do you, as the governor, try to get us together again?
That's a really good question. I get up every morning trying to figure out how we bring the state together, how we bring the country together. I think what is most important and what I love about Oregonians is that we are tough, we're resilient, we're creative, we're innovative, we're truly mavericks. And I truly believe that by putting aside our political differences, we can all work together to build a better Oregon for everyone. That is my vision for the state of Oregon moving forward.
Governor, while I have you, let's turn our attention to another problem that we've been facing for a long time. That is the COVID-19 pandemic. Some better news today. I think there were 162 cases, which is the lowest we've seen in about 2 months. Are we headed in the right direction? And when can we get kids back to class, you think?
I sure hope we are headed in the right direction. I have to say thank you to Oregonians across the state. Folks have made tremendous sacrifices, not only through social distancing, maybe not seeing your elderly aunt or your grandparent, but also wearing face coverings, washing your hands, and continuing to abide by, frankly, restrictions that are put in place to protect public health and to protect lives. So I want to say thank you to Oregonians. And we know that it's working. We still have more work to do. I'm absolutely focused on getting our kids back in school as quickly as possible, but we're going to have to continue to reduce the transmission rates. And it's honestly up to each and every one of us to do our part, to watch our physical distance, to wear a face covering, and of course, wash your hands.
Just quickly, you feel that we can get some kids back in school by sometime in the new year?
Well, we have 15 counties at this point that can get the early grades K through 3 into the classroom. So we're hoping that those communities will move forward. We have a number of remote rural school districts that can continue, that can get their kids back in the classroom. I'd like to get all of the state back in as quickly as possible. There are a couple of things, as I said, we need to reduce the transmission of the virus. But in addition, we need to substantially increase our testing capacity, and we're working on the capacity to do that within the state. But hopefully we'll have the assistance of our federal partners.
Headed in the right direction right now?
Yes.
Governor, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Stay safe out there.
You too.